Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make our rustic farmhouse gnome. He is weighted and stuffed, and he's got a nice little hat that you can make in a variety of colors with a little pom-pom. So for his beard and nose, you're able to get some pre-cut beards with noses just from Amazon. So it comes with different, you can get a kit that has different colors of beards if you want. So it's sort of got like a mixy gray, the brown and white, or the white. I'm going to be using the white for this tutorial, but I decided to buy the package that had the different colored beards, but you can just get the solid white as well if that's what you prefer. So these are what we'll be using. So the beard is just simple, just like this, and all we'll do is glue it and glue on the nose. I used a little mini pom-pom maker for the pom-pom on the hat. You'll need some polyester fill, and I also have a weighted bag inside. It just makes it so he doesn't fall over. It just gives it a nice little weighted bottom, which I think is a nice touch. And the yarn that I'm using is Brava Tweed worsted weight yarn. So for the hat, I'm using 1 strand, but actually for the body of the gnome, I'm tripling it to make it nice and thick and bulky and quick to work up. So we'll be working with 2 hook sizes. I will be using the 5.5 millimeter to make the hat, and I'll be working with an 8 millimeter for crocheting the body. So we will start out working the hat of the gnome. So I've already worked up a band, and I'll quickly show you how you can get this started. So we're working with that smaller hook, the 5.5 millimeter, and put a slip knot on your hook. We're going to chain out 11. Once you have 11 chains, we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. I'm just going to switch over to a different color hook just in case you're struggling with green on green. So we're going through each chain working a single crochet. And we'll have a total of 10 stitches. Okay, and then we'll chain 1 and turn. And for the band, we're going to be working single crochets through the back loops only. So if you take a look at your stitch, you're just going through that back loop of each stitch across. Single crochet through the back loop. Chain 1 and turn, and you're going to repeat row 2 for the pattern. So we're going to work a total of 38 rows for the hat brim. So let's take a look here. I've already worked up my 38 rows. So we can count this by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38. Once you have your 38 rows, we'll chain 1. We're going to fold the band together, and we're going to slip stitch it. So we're going to go through the back loop over to the starting chain and slip stitch through each stitch across. So 10 stitches. Okay, so now you want to leave that seam to the outside because the hat band will be flipped up, so it will cover that seam. So we're just going to leave it like this. We're going to chain 1 and work 1 single crochet per row around. So the first row, you're going to notice it has a thick section right at the top. So we're going to go through single crochet 1. I'm going to go over my tail as I go here too. The next row has this loop right here, only 1 loop. That's row 2. Then you get to the next row and you can tell it's a thicker section here. So there's row 3. And then you're back to just that loop right here, and that will be row 4. So that helps you make sure that you're going through each row. It just keeps you on track as you work around. Okay, so I've worked around 38 stitches. Now I'm going to reverse slip stitch join. So if you do a regular slip stitch, that's okay. It does hide the join line a little bit better if you do a reverse. So we're going back to front, keeping the yarn to the front of our work, pulling that yarn through just with a yarn under. I twist my hook and then pull it through. So it keeps this side flat. You'll notice it's hard to tell right here, but when you do a slip stitch, it does have a little bump, right? Maybe I can find this one to show you. So this will show you the difference on this hat. So I started with a regular slip stitch join. See how this bumps up a little bit? When you do that slip stitch, you're going to get this bump. Then I changed to doing a reverse slip stitch, and it's much flatter. You don't have that bumped up section the same. So I do prefer it, but at the end of the day, if you're struggling, just go ahead with your regular slip stitch. Going to chain 1. Now we're going to work 3 rounds of half double crochet. Just move this. So half double crochet in every stitch around. So take a look here. We've slip stitched into the first stitch. So this is our very first stitch right here that you see that it's slip stitched into. So we've chained 1, we're going to yarn over, go through, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So yarn over, go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. So I'll work all the way around in half double crochets. So this hat is going to work up really quick, because we're just using basic stitches to work up this hat. So we'll do a reverse slip stitch. So again, if we were doing a regular slip stitch, we're holding the yarn to the back. Everything is reversed when we do a reverse slip stitch. So the yarn goes to the front, we go back to front, grab the yarn, pulling it through. Now sometimes tricky to get it. This is a really pointy hook, so it's wanting to grab through. Okay. Then I just twist my hook, pulling it through. I know that looked fiddly on camera, but play around with it. Usually I'm better if I'm not trying to do it on camera, pulling that through. So I'm going to chain 1. Now I'm going to work 2 more rounds with half double crochet, working into that first stitch. Don't skip that first one. So when we start decreasing, we will be skipping it. Now, make sure, count that you're sticking at the 38 stitches for these 3 rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and crochet them and then we'll meet up again. Okay, so I've worked my 3 rounds. Now what we're going to do for every round is we're skipping the first stitch. So that is the stitch at the slip stitch join that we have been working into. So we worked into that stitch the first 3 rounds. Now we're going to jump over and crochet into this stitch. So the next stitch. This is going to decrease each round by 1 stitch. So make sure that you count as you're going around to make sure you're doing this right. So this is going to do a couple things. It's going to decrease us, but also a half double crochet rounds always tend to curve. But when you skip that first stitch, you get a much straighter seam. And this is what's going to happen. So as we skip 1 stitch, we're going to eventually decrease the hat right down to a total of 6 stitches, which is going to give us this nice little fold over hat. And then we're going to add a little pom-pom to the end of it. So I'm doing that. I have 3 gnomes. You can do sets of 3. You can really mix and match your colors however you want. I'm going with 2 green hats and a red hat for my gnomes, but really get creative with whatever your Christmas decor. This item is even perfect for fall. So if you wanted to do a fall gnome, let me show you the pumpkin color because it looks really good. So if I were going to work up a fall gnome, I would definitely use the pumpkin color and it would look great. So you could have the greens and pumpkin, really, but you can match your home decor. So do whatever color hats you want because you could leave these sitting out much longer than just Christmas, but they definitely look Christmassy in the red and the green with the little fluff pom-pom. So I'm going to continue working around in my half double crochets. So this round will be reducing to 37 stitches. So I was just thinking as I was working here, you could have the hats I don't attach. So you could make a bunch of hats in different colors and you could just switch out your hat for the different seasons. This yarn even comes in the lilac and the soft pink. So even an Easter gnome, if you made some hats up in different colors, you could just swap out the hats for the different seasons and keep your gnome out all year round. And if you didn't want to add the pom-pom, you can just omit that and just leave the hat like this. So I'm just going to keep working here my round. Okay, so once you get all the way around, we're going to slip stitch in that first half double to join. Keep doing my reverse slip stitch, chain 1, and we're doing the same thing. We're skipping that very first stitch, going into the next, and this round will now have 36 stitches. All worked in half double crochets. Okay, so I am going to continue working my hat. Every round is the same. We're skipping the first stitch and we're just doing it until we get down to 6 stitches. So once you're down to that, we'll meet up again. We're just easily going to close up the top just with our yarn needle. And then we can make our pom-pom to finish off the hat. Okay, so I finished working the hat to a total of 6 stitches, and once you get down to your 6 stitches, you can fasten off. Okay, and this has used about half a ball. So we're going to pull that through, and then you're going to take your yarn needle and you're going to go through the front loop of every stitch around. And then you can just pull the top of the hat closed. I'm just going to do some weaving. Okay, and then back in the opposite direction. So next I'm going to use a pom-pom maker to make the pom-pom for the bottom of the hat. Okay, so you're going to open it up, and I'm going to use some Brava in white for doing this. I like to take the inside and outside of the ball just to make this go faster. If you take one strand, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I just like to do this as quick as possible. So you're wrapping. Okay, so once you fill it up nice and full, you can trim. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing to the other arm. Okay, so I've put both of my arms in once you have that all done, and then we can just trim. There's little grooves along. I think I need to pick up some new scissors. These ones are having a hard time getting through. So I'm going to do both sides. We're just going to cut through all the loops. I like to do a knot going around 2 times so it secures it when you pull it in. Just make sure you want to pull it tight, but you don't want to break the yarn. And then I'm going to knot it again so that that's secure. And then I always take it to the opposite side and just repeat the process. So going through twice, pulling, and again. Now you can open it up. I like to give it a little fluff and then just trim any of the little random strands. Sometimes you'll only have a few, and then other times you'll have a few more just to get your shape. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just tie it to the end of the hat. So I'm taking my yarn needle. Just going to poke it through the end and give this a knot to attach it. Then you can just trim the tails a little bit less, just so they blend right in with the pom-pom. Okay, and the little hat's done. So next I want to attach one of my tags to the hat. So I'm gonna go with, you can pick any color. I'm gonna go with gold because I have a lot of gold decor. Okay, so you're gonna take the snap and then you're going to hammer this. Give it a hammer, use the tools it provided in the kit so that that stays. And I'm gonna add this to all of my hats. Now to work on the body of our gnome, I have used, instead of getting the bulky weight yarn, you could use super bulky weight yarn. So I wanted the body to be heavy and thick and work up really fast. So you could use a super bulky if you want, but if you want to keep the cost down, just using worsted weight yarn and tripling it is going to give you that really thick super bulky yarn. And this is a good way to use up yarn in your stash. You don't have to go out and buy something specific. If you really love the tweeds, then it's still only roughly around $5 for a ball of the tweed, and you only need one ball to make the body of the gnome. So a quick and easy little trick to make super bulky yarn from worsted is going like this. So we're going to shape our yarn into an S, and that's just to get your 3 strands together. If you wanted to just double it up, that would be fine. Your gnome will just be smaller. So I really do suggest sticking with tripling it. Okay, so now we have 3 strands. And what we do to continue getting our yarn is we just take that loop, you grab your yarn, and you just keep pulling. So I'll sometimes section off a big amount. I'll just keep pulling through and pulling through. So I have a bunch of yarn ready to go. And this is so you don't have to work from several balls, and you're only going to need the 1 ball to make the body of the gnome. Now I'm using an 8mm hook because I want the stitches nice and tight. We're going to start out with a magic ring. I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to chain 1. Now I'm going to work 10 half double crochets in the ring. It is going to feel almost like this hook is too small, but again, I want the stitches nice and tight. So that's why I'm going with this size with the 3 strands. I've actually played around with this pattern with the yarn being thinner, and I just wasn't overly happy with the look. I really love the look of a super bulky yarn in these home decor items. And I really love the colors of Brava Tweed, so I wanted to make it work for this pattern. Okay, and then once you have your 10 stitches, I always just push my work out of the way so I can see these loops. I know when we have triple strands, it seems like a lot, but we're gonna pull this in. These ones are pulling in, so take them, give them a tug. They're gonna pull the other loops, then just take your tail and tug. Now I'm gonna need a stitch marker as well, so I'm gonna grab that. We're going to be working in a continuous round, and we're working through the back loops only, and that's going to give us this really nice texture. Now I'm doing all of my bodies in this color. I just need to actually refresh my memory as to the name. So it's Mink. That's the color I'm using for all my bodies, a nice neutral. You can pick whatever color you want. So we're going to single crochet 2 in that first stitch. in the back loop only. Now I'm going to mark the first stitch with my marker so I can keep track of my rounds, and I will work 2 in every stitch, increasing to 20 stitches. Okay, and then when you get all the way around, we'll move the marker. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch. You can add your marker back to mark that first stitch, and then we're going to work 2 in the next. So this will be the repeat pattern to increase another 10 stitches. So we'll crochet 1 in the back loop of the next stitch, so single crochet, and then single crochet 2 in the next. 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2 in the next. Okay, and work that all the way around. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. We're at 30 stitches. Now we're going to go up to 40. So we're going to single crochet in the first 2. I'll get my marker back in the first stitch, and then work 2 in the next. One in each of the next 2. And then 2 in the next. Okay, and work this all the way around. Okay, so I've worked my first 2 stitches of my next round, and you want to work a total of 8 rounds, working 1 in every stitch. So we're just staying at the 40 stitch mark now, working in the round. And you're going to want to do a total of 8. So if you need a little tip for keeping track of your rounds, I like to just place out my markers. Then if I get distracted, I know how many rounds I've worked. You can usually figure it out following your rounds here with your spiral, but it's just a little tip if you struggle with keeping track. So I'm going to go ahead and work 8 rounds, and then I'll meet you up again. Okay, so I have worked my 8 rounds, and this is what it should look like. So what you're going to need to do is add a little weighted bag. Now you could skip this and just add the stuffing. The weight just gives it a little bit more stability. Now I've just added some rice, but you can add whatever you want. So you could add beads, really anything, just to give it a little bit of weight. Some people have made comments on other videos that they use maybe pantyhose to hold stuff in, really whatever you want. Now these bags are fairly inexpensive. I got a pack of 100 and I use them in a lot of projects, so it's nice having them on hand for things, but use whatever you want. And then we can just add that to the bottom. Now we're going to start stuffing as well. And you can stuff around the bag and then just stuff really as you go. We're going to do some decreases now though, before I put too much stuffing in, because it can tend to get in your way when you're crocheting. So now for our first decrease round, we're going to work 1 in each of the next 2. And I'm going to keep marking my rounds so I don't lose track. And then we're going to decrease across at the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to go through the back loop, pulling up a loop, go through the back loop of the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So 1 single crochet in the back loop of the next 2, and then single crochet 2 together across the next 2. So go through the back loop, pull up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through all 3 loops. So continue doing this all the way around. So we're reducing to 30 stitches for this round. Okay, so you should be ending with your decrease. And now we're going to do another decrease round. So now we'll single crochet in the first, and then we'll decrease the next 2. So we're going to be decreasing down to 20 stitches. So decrease, across the next 2, single crochet in the next, and decrease the next 2. So keeping everything in the back loop. So I'll repeat that around. Okay, so I've reduced to 20 stitches. I'm gonna make sure I get some more stuffing in here. Okay, so once you're happy with your stuffing, give them a good shape, we're going to do some increases now to start working the head. So we'll work 1 in the next, and then 2 in the next. So we're increasing back to 30 stitches again. Make sure I put my marker back. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this around 1 and then 2. Okay, so now we're at 30 stitches. I'm going to do 6 rounds for the head at 30 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to mark this. And you can just stuff this as you go if you want, or wait till you get your 6 rounds done and then give it a stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get these rounds worked. Okay, so I have worked my 6 rounds now of the head, and we're going to start decreasing it. I have stuffed it, so it is always a little tricky with all the stuffing, but you can always wait to do your decrease round and then add more stuffing if you're struggling. So here is my last stitch, and we're going to start, do some decreases. So we're going to work 1 in the next stitch and then do a decrease across the next 2. 1 in the next, and then 2 single crochet decrease across the next 2. So we're just repeating this pattern around, working 1 and then doing a decrease. Okay, so now we're going to do another decrease round. So we're reduced to 20 stitches, and now we're going to decrease across every 2 stitches, so that we go from 20 to 10. I feel like I've maybe stuffed my head a little bit too much. I'm just gonna pull a little stuffing out of it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and decrease every 2 stitches around. Okay, so once you get all the way around, you're going to be down to 10 stitches. So at this point, we're going to fasten off. And you should be through, I just have a little bit left off the ball, so you're gonna use approximately 1 ball of yarn. Now, another thing you can do if you really wanna see if you're on track with the same size as I have, I'm gonna measure around the body. And this will change if you stuff it too little or too much. So that's 18 inches. And the head is around 13.5. So that gives you a good idea. I like to make each of my gnomes about the same size. So I like to measure them to make sure that I've stuffed them the same. Then we're gonna take a yarn needle and close this up. So you'll need a needle for bulky yarn to get all those strands through. And now I'm going to work through the front loops only of every stitch. Okay, and then this will just pull tight. So we're just going to weave this tail around. So we've pulled that tight. And then you can trim your tail. Okay, so next we want to glue on our beard and our nose to finish him off. So basically you're just going to find your row up here near the neck. We're going to take our glue gun, run a small bit of glue just along the edge, and glue that beard right to the body. So I'm going to grab my glue gun. And then we'll just glue the nose as well. You want to make sure you get part of the crochet body. Don't glue it all to the beard or it's not going to stay. Okay, so he doesn't look too great yet, but once we add his cute little hat, it's gonna make all the difference. So we're gonna fit his hat all the way down. You wanna make sure it covers right down to the beard, and the nose is just going to pop it up a little bit. Now you could always give him some arms or some legs, but I think he's really cute just like this with no arms or legs. If I was going to add the legs, I would probably do the long skinny ones, for him sitting up on the shelf, but I think this is a really cute little trio I'm gonna make of my gnomes. So I'm just gonna finish off my other one with the darker green hat. And another option is just the regular Brava that we used for the pom-poms. So if you're looking for some particular colors, check out all the different Brava lines because they have some different color options that you might like that is in the solid colors of Brava. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below the video for all the links. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.